I call the January 6, 2025 regular meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, I would like to recognize Commissioner Christina Helms for the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you to first thank you for all that you do for us. We humbly ask for your strength, guidance, mercy, and grace. Lord, you remind us that each day is a gift from you, and we are responsible how we use those gifts. Please help each of us here and those that are listening to use these gifts for your will and not our own. Please be with those that are hurting and in need of your comfort, Lord. We're grateful for your love that endures forever throughout all generations, and that you have compassion on your servants. Protect us, guide us, and give us wisdom to do your will. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. If everyone would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is for informal comments from the community, and we do not have anyone signed up tonight. If there is someone here that did not have a chance to sign up but would like to speak. Okay. That moves us to our public hearing. Okay, do we have anything for the public hearing tonight? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was looking for it. It's not April Fool's yet.
I think without a public hearing, that takes us to the top of page 6.
Yep. It is now time for consideration of the agenda and consent agenda. Are there any motions regarding requests, revisions, or amendments to either the consent or business agenda? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the items listed on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as published.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 Very good. We are now at the business portion of the agenda, so we can go all the way to the back here. Page 20, if you're following. So we are now at the business portion of the agenda, and the first item on the business agenda is item 24-877, conditional rezoning petition, PUD Amendment CZ 2024-008, Dormy. I want to recognize Bjorn Hansen, Senior Planner, concerning this agenda item.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Manager Matthews. This is a follow-up to the public hearing that was conducted in December for a conditional rezoning on Ray Road near Tom Short. It's called the Dormy rezoning for the applicant. Again, it's a medical office rezoning shown on the site plan. Ray Road is here. The entrance into the site with Morningstar Storage is behind it. Here are the existing conditions with the site cleared and the mini storage behind it. Ray Road looking north and south. No one spoke at the public hearing last month. The applicant team presented additional information. They are here as well. Land Use Board recommended approval. We recommended approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, the Development team is here as well to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? No?
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve this item. So I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance approving revision to the official zoning map of Union County, North Carolina, and then to adopt the consistency and reasonable statement for approval.
Okay, any questions or comments about the motion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next on our agenda is item 24-873, voting system purchase. I want to recognize our elections director, Kristen Jockman, concerning this item. Welcome.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about our Hart InterCivic Verity voting equipment. Prior to the 2020 elections, there was only one approved vendor in the state, which was ES&S. So we were bound by their pricing, their maintenance agreements, the types of equipment we could use. But in 2019, the fall, the state approved another vendor, Hart InterCivic. So we were quite pleased with that we had a choice, and we'll kind of go over some of the features and security of that equipment tonight and see if you have any questions so far. We were actually the first county to leave ES&S, and there's 7 counties now in the state that are Hart counties. In order to replace our current voting assist system that we had in 2019, we could only choose a system that was certified by the State Board of Elections. The county board, our Board of Elections, was required to witness a public demonstration of at least 2 systems. The commissioners, the manager, the political parties were also invited to that demonstration. Our board then made a preliminary recommendation to the county commissioners in October of 2019. The equipment was tested during the 2019 municipal election, and then we came back to the county commissioners to ask approval to purchase and for funding for that equipment. The commissioners approved and the state board approved, so we now have our Hart equipment.
Madam
There
Chair.
were- Yes, sir.
Kristen, if I can stop you for just one second, I've got a question on your previous slide.
Okay.
So, so just for clarification, when it says that the equipment tested during the municipal election, there 11/5/2019, so was the testing going on, I guess, at the same time that maybe a different software was being used, or was this just put into action right
Yes.
away?
We had to test it at one voting site.
Okay,
So we just chose a certain precinct. Yes, that was the only requirement.
okay.
And we still used ES&S at the other sites during that election.
Thank you, ma'am.
So after the acquisition, per statute, we're required to comply with the vendor specs for the ballot printers and vendors. We can't replace the system or any portion of it without approval from the state. And annually maintain the software license and maintenance agreements necessary to maintain the warranty. And that is the item that's on the agenda today. It's not an equipment purchase, it's just that renewal, that contract for that software license and support. So we rolled out our new Hart system at during the March 3rd, 2020 primary election. You can see the contract was approved for a little over $1 million for that equipment. The touch screens, or DREs, are no longer used in Union County, and if you remember and voted on those at early voting, touch, and then if you see on the left at the bottom, that little white square, that's where your choices were recorded. The voter had to look there to be sure their choices were recorded accurately. They did not receive a printed ballot or receipt or anything. Didn't like it. And we did get complaints too. People would say their vote had changed, and, you know, no one liked those machines. So we're glad that we were able to move on. Now, everybody in the county votes a paper ballot and inserts those into the Verity scan. And this lets the voters review and confirm their choices before they cast their ballot. If they make an error, they can spoil it and return it for a new ballot up to 3 times. So that's by state law. You can see here what counties have hand-marked paper ballots on election day and who have hand-marked on early voting. The ES&S Express Vote, some counties use that election day and early voting, and that's one of the major differences between our voting equipment and one of the reasons we chose HART instead. The Express Vote is a touch screen, and it prints a ballot, but it's a smaller size ballot, and it only prints the voter's choices and a barcode. Their scanner reads the barcode. So the voter can't read the barcode, and they don't really have confirmation that their votes are recorded accurately. The ADA machine we have, it prints the choices on a regular size ballot, just like all the other voters receive. So I'm gonna let Philip Henson, our Deputy Director, talk about the security and then security and the testing of the equipment.
Good evening, Board. I just wanted to go over a couple of security things. Part of my duties involve a lot to do with the machines, so she wanted me to go over this with you. The number one question we get is, are they connected to the internet? No. No part of our system touches any part of the internet. The voting machines, the central tabulator, the high-speed scanners, none of that equipment is ever connected to any network in-house or out-of-house. So that's number one. So the second security feature is that the equipment only runs pre-approved software. And by that we mean there's only so much that we can touch, you know, on the equipment itself. The operating systems are locked down. We can't even get to that. That's a security feature as well. There's also the 2-factor authentication. So when I program a machine, I have to have both a key and a passcode. So that you have to have something you know and something physical, just like a lot of the banking apps and all has gone to. There's also keys and tamper seals. Those are basic. The hard drives are encrypted, the entire hard drive on all the equipment with what they would call military spec encryption. The passcodes are rolling, they change every election. There's also a digital audit log that catches pretty much every keystroke or every action that takes place on the equipment. The equipment itself is trust listed, which means it only accepts actions that are pre-programmed for that equipment to accept. User profiles have different access levels, and there's also physical access controls. There's locks on the equipment itself. The equipment also uses non-standard ports for USBs. That keeps people from taking a regular USB and inserting it into a port that's kind of got a keyway. Same with the wiring. And this is an American product, manufactured in Austin, Texas. And it's also federally certified by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Is there any questions on any of that? All right. The other part that Kristen was talking about is the paper ballot. That's the big thing. We use paper ballots for everybody. Everybody gets a paper ballot. It's uniform. Doesn't matter which way you're voting. If you vote in person, absentee, early, everybody has the same ballot. And that is critical for the voter to be able to verify their choices. They can actually see what's on there. Now, the ballots themselves are printed on a special paper stock that is a special weight, and it's also watermarked, says official ballot. And each ballot has a unique identifier, kind of like a serial number, that prevents that ballot from being copied or ran twice. And the paper ballots also provide a paper trail, which is what most people want and what we want as well. Any questions on those? Okay, so before every election, we perform what is called logic and accuracy testing. And basically, what this does is ensures that the equipment itself is operating correctly and it's accurately. So basically, what this entails is a team of bipartisan people. This is something that I oversee, and the Democrats and Republicans get together and will run basically a pre-printed test deck. And so at the end of that test deck, we have an answer key showing what it should be. And that's how we know that it's tabulating correctly. And that's done before every single election on every piece of equipment. There's also another form of testing, which is hash testing. And what a hash is it's kind of like a digital fingerprint on the software itself. So every piece of equipment is checked. You export a hash file out of that equipment, and then that's compared to a file that we receive from the EAC. So it doesn't come from manufacturer. It comes directly from the EAC. That compares the source codes to make sure that there was no alterations at any time during, any point of its use. And that's also a critical step. So we take as many precautions as we can to secure these machines, and they're very secure machines. So, does anybody have any questions on any of that? All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to Kristen.
And the hash testing is not yet required by the State Board of Elections. However, our county has picked that up and is completing that now. The hand-to-eye sample audit is required after each election. The State Board of Elections randomly chooses 2 sample voting sites, and we're required to hand count the top contest on that ballot. For presidential, it's the presidential contest. We use bipartisan teams, and the instructions they give us is you have 4 people on a team, Democrat and Republican on one side. A person calls the choice, and as the other person oversees, the other team has a tally sheet, and for each choice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tally. And then at the end of that, we compare the totals with the results on the tape from the election, from election day. Recounts, we just had a recount for the North Carolina Supreme Court Associate Justice Seat 6. And this is actually a picture from that recount. The first recount is a machine recount where we run every ballot through the same scanner that it went through on election day or during early voting. The only discrepancy that we've had with either the hand-to-eye sample audit or recount is with voter, like an interpretation of voter intent. If a voter makes a mistake on a ballot, they can get a new ballot. However, we've had some, say for example, I changed my mind, so I had marked this box, but I exit out, and then I marked this one and put an arrow to it, and it says this one. So we've had that. So this one. So the machine scanner will pick that up as an overvote. You voted for 2 people. But when we do that hand count, you see that, and then you're like, okay, the voter intended to vote for this one. So those are the only discrepancies we've ever had. LNA, hash have been 100%, and then the sample audit and recount have only just been a few different only because of those voter intent interpretations. Also, reconciliation we do after each election, after the election, before Canvass and the board certifies. So when you go in to vote, you remember you signed that little paper that says, this is my name, address, me. We check you in on the laptop, and then you get your ballot and vote your ballot. So all those signed papers after the election that are called ATVs have to match the voter history that's in our computer and that you can find online if you voted, or, you know, where you voted, when you voted, and the ballots cast. So we have to have a piece of paper and a voter history for every ballot. That's our, you know, our reconciliation. If we have a discrepancy, we're required to report that to the state board before they canvass their election. Okay. Another thing that I don't think we mentioned is in these voting machines, the USB that Philip was speaking of, the scanners, on election night, we have one person from each precinct that brings the USB back to our office first, and that's when we post our results from that USB, and a tape that prints. Each machine also prints a results tape. So we have that. Then the chief judge brings the paper ballots back, and the machine keeps a internal count record of those votes cast. So we have 3 different ways to verify the actual ballots cast and those choices. Everything that we do is by bipartisan teams. We have mandatory training before each election. That's for staff, which is conducted at a state level by the state board, and we have to train each election official that works election day before each election. This past November, we had over 600 people from the, just residents from the county, registered voters that volunteered to work the election day or early voting. So each of those had to attend a training class, hands-on with the equipment and with the software. The election sites, early voting, and the precincts are supervised by judges that are appointed by the political parties. They serve 2-year terms, and we have a chief judge and a Republican Party judge and a Democrat Party judge. Those 3 judges complete all the paperwork and all the processes together at each site, and they all sign off on the paperwork, the reconciliations. It's a joint effort with party representation. Our county board is also bipartisan. It's appointed right now, and we'll see how the new law rolls out in the courts, but our county boards are appointed by the chair by the governor, 2 by the county Republican Party, and 2 by the county Democrat Party. Those chairs make recommendations to the state, then the state board appoints those 4 members based on those recommendations, and the governor appoints the chair. The new law has the state auditor appointing the chair and overseeing the State Board of Elections, unless that's appealed and overturned. The bipartisan teams conduct our testing, our auditing, and the other processes, and we have chain of custody reports and logs that track employee access to the voting equipment and to the ballots. So here is a picture of Brett and Paola. That's one of our bipartisan teams for our vote by mail ballots. This is a photo of them carrying the mail-out ballots to the post office. We also have a bipartisan team that picks up those ballots from the post office, along with the other, the mail-out, stuffing, everything we do in our office. We're certain to have bipartisan representation. A copy of the ballot reconciliation form that, again, all those party judges complete. Our board, who is bipartisan, during canvass, when we certify the election, all 5 members must be present. Any other absentee meetings, protest, anything like that, there has to be a quorum and both parties present. And we're required to keep all of our records for 22 months after the election, longer if there's a court case or protest, appeal, anything like that. And we welcome anyone to come into our office. We invite you to come in for a tour. I know the new commissioners, we've met you at the desk to file you and help you with campaign finance. But come back by and we'll take you behind the scenes and let you see our warehouse and explain to you what we do during the other part of the year when we're not conducting an election. So I'd be happy to have all of you, and not at the same time though, right? So we have voter outreach. Right now, we go into the high schools. We're the only group that's allowed to go into the high schools in the county to do voter registration drives. And we can speak at, we attend festivals and community events. We'll speak with groups. So if you know of anyone that's interested, let us know. We'll be happy to go out. And anyone that's interested in working the election or learning more about it, there's a place for them there too. And if someone calls our office with questions, we always try to explain and answer. And I invite them to come and work. If they're, leery of the process, come and work, and then you'll see and understand, and maybe hopefully feel more confident about it. So any questions?
Madam Chairman. I would just like to say thank you to Kristen and Philip for coming and doing the presentation. It's not often that they get to come in front of the board and talk about what they do. It's an important, part of county government. So I'd like to say thank you for them to come and do this for you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
You may not have this information at the top of your head, and I certainly understand it's a little bit off topic. Approximately how much do we budget for municipal elections cycles?
We're in the process of budgeting.
And ballpark is fine. I'm not going to hold you to the dollar.
Well, we bill the municipalities. There are certain costs that we bill them for. It will be less than 200,000 that we bill them for this year. We can only do equipment delivery, the cost of the precinct officials, the cost of the ballots and coding. So
So the
like
municip-
full-time staff,
Right.
none of that is
Yeah,
included.
That's
That's
we
just
have.
administrative costs that,
So 200,000 approximately, and it's all billed to municipalities for the municipal elections. Interesting.
per registered voter.
Right. And
I
I
see.
want to,
Yeah, it's like allocated per registered
many? Yeah.
voter. And I
Monroe
say that
pays-
200, I haven't looked at it. Our costs have really gone up,
I bet.
really
So
gone up.
Monroe would pay more than, say, Mineral Springs.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, per voter.
That makes sense.
And, yes, and right now, they only have one early voting site. And I'll be sending out letters again to the municipalities. They can open another site, but they're required to pay for it. Say Waxhaw wants to open a site. It's gonna be billed to them in Waxhaw, and anyone in the county can vote there. No one yet has taken us up on that. And also, everyone still charges a $5 filing fee for the municipalities. They can change that, and that filing fee goes against, their cost. But no one has changed that either. It's still $5.
The reason I asked, and I know there are state laws regulating this, and who knows what interest level there is, but some people have approached me and just said, well, why don't we have our municipal elections on the even years with all the other elections and just have, one election, and that would greatly enhance, I would think, the voter turnout. You're going to be higher for your national and your congressional elections than typically municipals are, and so that's why I wondered about the cost involved. So that would be
Yeah.
municipalities' savings.
Yes, some counties do that already. I know Stanley County doesn't have municipal elections in odd-numbered years. I think you have to go
Really?
to the legislature
I would think so,
to get that
yeah.
approved, to get those moved. But that is
And maybe not
That is
everybody would
possible.
want to do it.
true,
Yeah.
true.
With what, 12, 13 municipalities?
14, yes.
14 now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just was interested in the dollars. Thank you.
It would be a long ballot.
Commissioner Brian Helms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kristen, Philip,
Yes.
first of all, thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. I found this to be very informative, simply because, we get questions all the time from, our constituents about, well, how secure is our voting process? How secure is our software? And so I think that, the information that you've given us tonight has been very, very informative. And I think also, at least for me, it sort of puts me at ease to know that that it's also secure. And I think that that's the big thing that folks really want to know is, how secure is the software? And so if I'm hearing you right, we don't have concerns with security, here in our county, and that's obviously a good thing. One question for you, and that is that you made the statement, maybe on one of your last slides, about keeping the records. So the records for, any election, you said that you keep them for 22 months unless, of course, there's an appeal or, something's in dispute, I suppose. What happens to the records after that 22-month period? Are they just destroyed, or how does that work?
We have our records shredded.
Okay.
So we actually have a truck, we schedule it. It's coming tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow for 2022, November of '22. We're gonna dispose of tomorrow. We have a few choices: shred, you can put it in a vat of acid. We haven't tried that. But it's only a few choices of how to dispose of them, but we do have, so they don't leave our site, they go directly there to the truck to shred.
So, well, and I think that's a great point that, so we're not putting those records in someone else's hands.
No, sir.
So, even that, I think, speaks to the security of what we do here. So, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item of business is item. Oh, yes.
I'll
Thank
make
you.
the motion to approve the cost of the renewal of the software for $73,801.
Yep. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. 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 Motion passes. The next item of business is item 24-838, to initiate a lease with Congressman Mark Harris. Prior to any deliberation or vote on this item, I want to note for the board and the public that I am an employee of the U.S. House of Representatives and Congressman Mark Harris. This item relates to a lease of county property for that district office, and pursuant to Rule 23 of the board's rules and procedures, I request that the board excuse me from consideration on voting on this item, and I will now turn the proceedings over to Vice Chair Brian Helms for the board's consideration of this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're pursuant to the board's rules of procedure, an excuse from voting requires the vote of remaining members of the board. Therefore, I make the motion that Commissioner Merrill be excused from voting on this item. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. None opposed. Okay. So if there's any questions on this item, Deputy County Manager Patrick Nyland is available to answer those questions. Otherwise, the item is, for our consideration, is a lease with Congressman Harris. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay, so I will entertain a motion then for item 24-838.
Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the action requested on item 24-838.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. All right. At this time, then I'll turn the meeting back over to Chair Merrill.
Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is item 24-886, appointments to boards and committees. There are 2 boards with vacancies for consideration this evening. These vacancies have been advertised in accordance with board's rules and procedures. Applications have been received, and information regarding the vacant positions may be found in the background provided for this item. First is the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. There are 4 vacancies on this committee. I will now entertain a motion for nominations to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to nominate the following individuals to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. First is Terry Davis. Second is David Good. Third is Jesse McAtee. And then fourth is Jonathan Warren.
Is there any discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passes. The second committee with a vacancy for consideration tonight is the Union County Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee. I will now entertain a motion for nomination to this committee.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Jacqueline S. Gill to the Union County Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passes. I will now recognize the county manager for any comments he would like to share with everyone tonight.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It is now time for commissioner comments. I'm going to start at this end of the dais. Commissioner Balcom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only comment tonight will be to encourage everyone to remember former Chairman, Mr. Dennis Rape, in your thoughts and prayers. They've experienced a tough loss. And I would like to thank Kristen and Philip for a great presentation.
I don't have any comment.
I would like to send our condolences for the Jerry Franklin family. He passed away. He was an employee with our libraries, and he will be sorely missed in our community. He served many, many years in that role as a volunteer in our libraries in multiple locations. So I do want to let the Franklin family know that you're in our thoughts and prayers. And on a very exciting note, I want to congratulate Monroe High School, their football team, for winning the state championship. So Congratulations to Coach Sowell on another ring that he will obtain for his treasure trove. But what an amazing coach he has been in this county and for Monroe High School. And we just want all of those assistant coaches, parents, students, and the entire Monroe community to know how extremely proud we are of you. And congratulations on a very exciting victory. So that's all I have tonight.
So I'll echo some of the comments that have already been said. First of all, my sincerest condolences to the family there of former Commissioner and Chairman Dennis Rape. very untimely and very unfortunate loss. And my thoughts and my prayers go out to his family and him. Again, congratulations to Monroe High School. I think that that's a great accomplishment, 2A state champs. And, you know, I also want to thank our staff. You know, I think that it was great to hear from Kristen and Philip tonight. Again, thank you very much for being here. I see many staff members out here in the audience. Thank you for your dedication. And also, you know, thanks to my fellow board members for not having another 5-hour meeting. So, so that's all my comments for tonight. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Commissioner Sides.
Madam Chair, I would like to offer condolences to the Williams family. Human Services employee Yolanda Williams passed away during the holidays. Last Saturday, it was a very respectful service. They packed the house, we were parking on the street, filled the lots. I was very impressed with the number of county staff and Human Services Department and others that attended, and it's truly a reflection on the quality of employee that she was, and I offer my sympathies to Mr. Williams and the family. And I wish everyone a Happy New Year.